high level. So I just think we focus on the wrong things. And I think we pay attention to a lot of the wrong avenues, like with a lot of these, like, 2-week, fixes and cleanse and juice cleanses.
Yeah.
Like, we need to do things that are more of a long-term approach and stop looking for the magic pill. Stop looking like when someone turns to me, I got to lose 5 pounds. Like, no, you don't. Anyone who tells me they have to lose 5 pounds, like, it's ridiculous. Like, if I told you you could be 5 pounds heavier and have the exact physique that you want, the exact body you want, like, pick it out of a magazine, that's your body, be 5 pounds heavier. And they're like, they don't know how to answer me because they're so used to being like living in a society where, well, we have to be lighter, we have to lose weight. It's got nothing to do with that. How do you look naked? How is your energy level? How do you feel every day when you wake up? Right? And that's the answer to the question. If we can get you to a good spot, who cares if you're 120 pounds or 115 pounds or 110 pounds? It shouldn't matter.
Welcome my guest, Don Saladino, a coach and fitness entrepreneur. For over 20 years, Don has coached actors, athletes, musicians, and business executives. In 2005, he opened his New York City gym, Drive 495. After operating a gym for 15 years, Don expanded to a global online fitness business. He has developed a reputation for training some of the biggest names in Hollywood for the big screen. Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, Jake Gyllenhaal, Emily Blunt, Sebastian Stan, and Hugh Jackman are among his roster of clients. He has been tapped as a fitness expert in publications such as Muscle and Fitness, Men's Health, and Men's Fitness. He has also been featured in People, Us Weekly, Shape, and much more. And he has made appearances doing live fitness demos on shows such as The Today Show, People Now, and E! News. He also sits on the advisory board of Men's Health magazine. In 2018, he was on the cover of the iconic Muscle and Fitness magazine and also returns this October on the cover as well. All right, Don Saladino, I am so honored to have you on. This is so fun.
Thank you.
You're coming from New York and I'm Los Angeles, and it's just great to connect. Fitness is definitely something I am very familiar with. It's been a part of my life since I think I started working out when I was 13. I don't know, really young. It's a part of my lifestyle. It's not something that is separate from me. It's a part of me. And I love sitting down with people that are experts in this field because I feel there's so much knowledge around it. And I know what you train people to do is something kind of specific that you're known for. And you actually are the person that people come to become a superhero. And so I know, which is a great thing to say. I'm sure your kids love that. Like, you train actual superheroes. It's pretty awesome.
It's wild.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on. And I can't believe that it's happening right now. Let me shut my phone off. My apologies.
No worries.
Rookie move right there, huh? That's the wonderful world of COVID and working from home. But I became a coach back in 1999. Worked at a big box gym. Then went a year later to open my own training business, and then I did my first raise back in 2003, 2004, and then I had my first club open in the city in 2005. And actually started working with golfers for golf performance because my brother was an ex-pro golfer turned back amateur. And then I met Hugh Jackman, and Hugh knew I was really into this performance physique world, and we had to hit it off. And I spent almost a year with him, prepping him for the movies Wolverine in Australia that he shot with Nicole Kidman. And that's when my career kind of pivoted. And I went from, this strict performance world of working with, tour golfers to, this performance physique world of starting to work with these people getting ready for, these superhero roles. So it's been wild. It's been wild. 22 years later, if you ask me, I'd be doing specifically what I'm doing now. I'd be like, wow, this is definitely weird. And it's just rolled into so many blessings, and I'm very lucky.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Well, where did this all stem? Like, how did you get into fitness? Your passion for it?
I actually remember as far back as the second grade. I had a terrible hearing problem, and I had I had to have a surgery, and I was fighting this stutter for years. And I think there was this level of like insecurity at a really young age. My father played a lot of baseball growing up, and he started, playing with me a bunch. He was in the catering business, so he was working crazy weekends, but he'd come home during weekdays and we would just start throwing. And around that time, I remember looking at, magazines with guys like Arnold and Lou Ferrigno on, and I just remember like getting this weird, like this strange feeling when I saw them, like, oh my God, like you were almost drawn into these people. And there was just something, so attractive to their physiques and their level of strength. And then, I found out I was a pretty good athlete and went off to college to play Division I baseball. And every day just started becoming obsessed with nutrition and supplementation and training and taking courses and reading books. And it really was like, I was studying business at my university, but I was really minoring in fitness. And when I graduated, it was like, all right, what can I do that would allow me to do this? And, found out there were professional trainers out there. I was like, oh my God, did they actually make money? I remember having a conversation with my mom. She's saying, don't worry about the money. You've been great at everything you've done. Just focus on this. And it's really rolled into an incredible career for me. And, 22, 23 years later, going strong. And I feel like I'm still learning new stuff every day. And I'm building a 2,000 square foot barn in my backyard. It's actually, if you hear any of the saws in the background, that's it. And going through a huge kitchen renovation at the same time. But I'm moving. When I moved my brick and mortar facility, when my lease expired after 15 years, I decided to build this commercial grade barn in my backyard, multi-floors, 2,000 square feet, outdoor sanctuary, recovery area, 5-person infrared sauna, cold plunges, podcast area, but just a performance studio that if I wanted to have 20 coaches over with 20 clients, they could comfortably go in there and work as if it was a commercial grade spot. And it's not going to be. It's going to be a place where I just film all my content. I'm going to be hosting live classes on a platform called Solon that's going to launch in October. And it's just been an incredibly fun project for me. It's like a passion project. It's been great.
Wow. It sounds incredible. And it sounds like you're expanding in so many different ways than that naturally unfolded, to be honest, and which is so remarkable. So let's go a little into superhero training. So number one, your first client was Hugh Jackman, right? Jackman. Sorry about that. And I'm curious, number one, how did that come about? And why were you the trainer for him? Like, how did that unfold?
He was in my club. I think he saw me training a bunch, and he was working with a friend of mine, and my friend's wife got pregnant with triplets, and they had to move. And Hugh and I were kind of hitting it off, having a conversation. So he knew I lived in this performance physique world. Fortunately, I've shot a bunch of magazine covers. I'm on the cover of Muscle and Fitness in October. That'll be coming out next month. I shot Men's Health. I shot the cover of Muscle and Fitness back in 2018. I've done a handful of covers. So I've always lived in this world of performance physique where, I've worked with athletes, but, nutrition and preparing to be cover ready is something I become very, very comfortable with. I also worked with a lot of physical therapists at my club. So understanding movement and understanding rehabilitation is not something I would ever take on because I'm not a physical therapist, but it's something I understand how to have the conversation. So Hugh and I just hit it off, and we started getting him ready for this role. And then that kind of opened the floodgates. And then at that point I started training, dozens and dozens of additional A-listers. And most of them, Ryan Reynolds is, like a brother to me. He's one of the guys I've been working with for the last 12 years. His wife, Blake Lively, another one, I've been working with her for about 10 years. Sebastian Stan, Billy Crudup, Liev Schreiber, who's Ray Donovan, all these guys, men and women, Emily Blunt, John Krasinski. So it really rolled off to where it became a referral business for me. And I had about 10 coaches working for me at the club, but was able to go in and mainly focus on the business and mainly focus on getting these people ready for the screen. So it's been fun.
That's amazing. Well, so what defines a superhero? Because I know I've heard you speak about like Arnold Schwarzenegger was one of your inspirations and certain other bodybuilders, but somebody that's strong and big, that doesn't necessarily mean they're mobile, they have flexibility and all these things that, well, actually, I just want to hear what's your definition of a superhero?
A superhero is someone that could do it all. It doesn't matter male or female. It doesn't matter big or petite. I mean, I work with Emily Blunt, who's, filmed a lot of action movies, and she's got, a very pleasing physique. Most women look at her and they're like, wow, she's in incredible shape. It's just someone who can go and perform from an athletic standpoint, but also, has a lower level of body fat, and someone that can move and can functionally do things, that can functionally adapt to different environments and different situations. So it really doesn't have to do with, the size of someone. It really just has to do with the functionality, the mobility. Mobility is a combination of flexibility and stability. So having, those attributes is something that's incredibly important. But it's funny because they'll come to me getting ready for a movie. So when there's a superhero role, they're like, okay, Dave Harbour, I'm getting ready for Hellboy. Ryan Reynolds, I'm getting ready for Deadpool. Sebastian Stan, I'm getting ready for The Winter Soldier. So these just happen to be superhero roles. But I think we're all it sounds corny, but every single one of us, whatever we're trying to do, whether it's you, whether it's someone else, you're looking for some sort of that superhero training approach. And that's someone who's going to, look pleasing aesthetically, but be able to actually move a specific way athletically and have a level of resiliency. So important. There's so many people out there that train and they don't actually have any focus or pay any attention to their training. There's working out, which is someone who wants to go in and get a sweat. That's fine. And you can live a healthy life that way. And then there's training, which is someone going in with a purpose. Are there instabilities in your shoulder that you have to work on? Is there tightness going into your thoracic spine, which could be causing pain in your lower back or in your shoulder? Is there an issue in your ankle that could be affecting your shoulder? So there's all these things going on in the human body that you can address and you can approach if you put together a sound training program. And that's my job. My job is to come in and look at the individual and say, all right, what's the goal at the end of the day? What do we have to do? How much time do we have? If it's a role they're getting ready for, hopefully it's never something where they're coming to me and they're like, all right, we have a month.
Yeah.
I want them with me indefinitely. So we never have to adjust too much. But when you're able to turn around and look at that individual and screen them and then design a program that fits their needs, it's pretty awesome what you can do with that.
So how do you assess somebody if the actor is coming to you or just a normal person, which I know your schedule is pretty full, but if somebody's coming to you, how do you fully assess them?
First thing you do is you go through a basic health questionnaire, a basic health and medical questionnaire. And if there's any red flags, you got to have a team of physical therapists in your corner that can medically go in and address if there's an issue. As a coach, one thing that I would do and one thing that all my trainers would do at my club was we put them through a functional movement screening. And if there was any, and we would look at their body from a joint by joint approach. So we would test a handful of movements. We would rate those movements. And if there were any red flags, we go right to our medical. So it was always a team approach. Even now, working from home, I still have a team of medical practitioners that I can lean on, and I can make sure that we're looking at them. Then I think you really got to understand the psychology, and you have to sit down and you got to have a real conversation on what it is they think has worked for them in the past. What do they like? What do they dislike? And then figuring out, all right, what is the best decision based off of the information they give me to get them from point A to point B? There might be specific movements. Well, I'm going overhead. It's killing me. All right. Well, we got to stay away from overhead work right now. Maybe we're going to more vertical to horizontal work, like a landmine press. So then you start developing this exercise library of movements that you can safely go in and attack them with. You got to look at stresses. So you got to look at sleep quality. You got to look at digestion. You got to look at nutrition. Probably a very big overlooked, a much overlooked area would be sleep quality. Oh, I sleep fine. But what is that sleep quality like? So there's sleep studies, or, I wear something called an Aura ring, which I love. I've been working a lot with Aura, but I think if there's some red flags, you can get on with a sleep doctor like Dr. Rebecca Robbins, speak to her, and then you can start peeling back layers and figuring it out. So you really have to be a connector. You really have to understand that you can't do this all by yourself. I almost refer to what I do as like an auto body shop. I'm sorry, like not an auto body shop, but more of a service station.
Yeah,
a service station. So you're going in there, or if it's like a pit stop for a NASCAR, you got your guys to work on the wheels, the engine, the gasoline. Like you have to rely on your team. Like I work closely with Dr. Josh Dines from HSS, Dr. Bill Healy from from Northwell, which is in Huntington. And there's a team of orthopedists out there that we can send people to, and we can get MRIs turned around really quickly. So, these are basic issues that you're gonna have to deal with as a coach. And if you try and handle it all on your own, it's not really the best way to go about doing it.
Yeah. And I think what's so important that you talk about it as like a full spectrum of things that work together. It's mind-body connection. There's not one single, like some people think training, like, I just want to get fit. Like, what do I need to do? How do I need to eat? But there's so much more. And I love that you talk about the importance of sleep. And I've had the sleep doctor on. I've had several people talk on here, the importance of that and how that contributes, of course, into how your workout's going to be, how your body's going to function, how your hormones are going to be. It's so important. So I love that you emphasize that. But I also love that you talk about mobility. And I think a lot of people don't consider that, especially when they're training in their younger years. I think when we hit 40s, I hate to put age on it. I'm in my 40s, you're in your 40s. And I know people have this idea that when we age, like, of course, it's just because I'm in my 40s, this is this way. But if we train and actually prepare our body to perform properly by addressing that mobility. And I have you ever heard of a Egoscue method by chance?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I had Brian Bradley on, the VP of Egoscue, and I love talking about like posture and mobility because it's so ignored. And so many people, as we know, sit all day long, even more so now with the pandemic and everything. So how do you look at mobility and helping people when you're training with them, train their mobility?
Well, the first thing, and I think you said it already, it's probably one of the most commonly asked questions. I sit a lot, and what can I do to stretch after sitting? I'm like, sit less. And honestly, it's the easiest thing to do is to set a timer on your iPhone and tell yourself that you're not going to sit more than 30 minutes. If you sit at a certain point, try and stand for 30 minutes, try and work at your desk for 30 minutes, play a game. I'm only going to take my calls standing. But if you can immediately cut in half the amount of sitting that you're doing during the day within, in my opinion, 3 to 5 days, your body's going to start feeling significantly different. Then what you have to do is, I really believe, and I'm going to steal this term from Dr. Andrew Espina. He's the CEO of Functional Range Conditioning, FRC. Similar to like a lot of Ilk Askew stuff. And I know about Ilk Askew very well, but what is he trying to do? He's trying to, pretty much floss those joints and allow you to, the analogy I like to use is, if for people who know about boating, if you're going to take an engine and you're going to just lower the engine in the water and let it sit in the salt water for weeks, months, years, that engine's not going to start. Or if you can get it to start, when you run that boat, that boat's going to run like garbage. So the idea is every few hours, you have to stand up, you have to move, and you have to floss those joints, and you have to allow different areas of your body to move at a full range of motion slowly. Not where you're standing there throwing your arm into position. That's not control, but actually slowly moving your body throughout those ranges of motion that right now we're shortening and we're tightening. And if you were to sit here and you were to sit on your hands for the next hour, your hands are going to go to sleep. All we do is sit. So our butt technically is going to sleep. Our glutes, our hips are going to sleep. But then our bodies are smart. Like different areas above and below it from a joint by joint approach is going to start taking over for the work that area of the body doesn't do. So when someone gets injured and they're like, oh, my knees are killing me, there's a reason. If it was contact, that's one reason. But if it was from an inefficiency in an other area of the body and how that area of the body moves, you can get that knee fixed. If you don't address that other issue, it could potentially come back. So I always like to say X doesn't mark this spot. We hear it with tendonitis. Right. The big issue with tendonitis a lot of times can come from the shoulder. Most people don't think that. They just want to treat this. Why did this happen? Because of maybe a lack of mobility in the shoulder. So that's the easiest way to describe it. And yes, I 100% believe that, we need to be focusing on this stuff religiously throughout the day. But it's pretty amazing to me to think that if you sit for 10 hours, that 5 minutes of stretching is suddenly going to go correct it. It's going to make you feel a little bit better. It's better than nothing. But you need a little bit more than that. You just don't need to be spending hours. You just need a reminder. Stand up for a few minutes, move around, get a glass of water. If you're at your desk, move your neck, start allowing your body to floss a little bit, and you're going to feel a hell of a lot better.
Yeah. And wouldn't you say a lot of lower back pain is from not engaging your lower body as much? Like, would you say that contributes a
Could,
heck of a
yeah,
lot?
definitely. Yeah, it definitely could. I mean, again, I think it's just from sitting, and it's allowing, from a joint by joint approach, our bodies to really just go to sleep. And then when you stand up and you're trying to demand something out of your body, that's somewhat forceful. That's why you'll hear a lot of parents like, "Oh, I was running around with my kids and I blew my leg out, I blew my knee out, I blew my back out, or I bent over to get the bar soap in the shower, and I can't stand up now, and I'm in this bad shape because when we're kids, we run, we jump, we throw, we do all these things, and then in time we start getting away from these movements, and if you don't use it, you lose it. So from a coaching standpoint, my goal is to start reestablishing some of that elasticity back into someone's life. It doesn't mean on day one I'm going to take a 70-year-old and have them start to do box jumps. Like, that's irresponsible. But I'm going to get them to do the things to where maybe we can eventually get them to do some hops, and just get them to kind of bound a little bit. And then there's a progression there to where you'd be surprised. I mean, I believe as we get older, we can get better. I mean, I'm setting PRs at 44 years old. I've had clients of mine that are in their 70s that can hit 10 strict pull-ups, tactical pull-ups to their throat at 70 years old. If you give up, if you're going to give me that excuse, then fine. You already gave up. It's done. Like move on. But if you're one of these people that could put a little bit more attention into the things that you need to do to be able to not only maintain, but maybe improve. We never talk about that as we age. You can actually improve. It's remarkable.
I think that's so important to touch on that. I think so many people have this idea that age that's inhibiting us to stay fit, to stay lean, to be mobile, to be strong. Like, so many people think that like it stops at age 40 because we've been taught that's what happens. But actually, I've read before, I think it was in Ben Greenfield that I read this, that he says training heavy promotes longevity. Is that something?
I think so, but you gotta earn the right to be able to train heavy.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to earn that right. And I know what Ben means, and he's 100% right. He's 100% correct. But I never want to mislead someone and have them like turn around and go into the leg press and just starting to go heavy. You gotta pay your dues. You gotta crawl before you can walk. And if I get someone in there who's just not used to moving or has been working on Wall Street for the last 30 years, and like, I might not even load them. It might be, mat work. It might be foam rolling. It might be breath work. It might be body weight movement. And yeah, you know what? Then you can go hit them on the Airdyne bike a little bit, give them a little bit of what they want from a safety standpoint, give them a little bit of what they want while I'm doing a lot of what I want, what I know that they need. Where it becomes irresponsible is when people will read an article and they'll just like, oh, running's the best thing for you. I'm going to go barefoot. I'm going to go run 8 miles in 5 rooms if they pull out their Achilles. I'm like, no, I get it. Like, I can go run barefoot. It took me a long time to do that. Like, we have to allow a progression, and we need to be patient. We can't just read an article from someone saying this is the best thing, and then out of nowhere we're diving into it, because a lot of times our body hasn't earned the right to be able to do that yet.
Yeah. So going into training, I know this is not a blanket statement for everybody, because I know, as you mentioned, you assess where somebody is, where they're coming from, what's their background in fitness, how they've been training or anything. But if somebody comes to you that needs to get ready for this role, what is your approach after assessing them? Like, what do you set up? Like, what are the blanket statements for everybody? Of course, we have nutrition, the training, but
yeah, I think it's first thing it's understanding the role that they have to prepare for. Like, when I got Dave Harbour ready for Hellboy, we couldn't really lose any weight. He was wearing a prosthetic suit, but the goal there was for him to get really strong and very functional. Like, he was struggling to carry a 24 kilogram kettlebell. And then on his 9th week, he pulled 400 pounds off the floor, which is probably about an 85% lift for him. He wanted to go heavier. I said, you're done. We move on. We proved our point. You're flying to Bulgaria tomorrow, and we need you to feel healthy and your back not lock up on the plane. And we were very successful there. Ryan Reynolds, in Deadpool, maybe it's that one scene where he's pulling his shirt off. He's got to, look a specific way. And Ryan does a lot of his own stunts. So it's allowing his body to have that level of resiliency. So I think the one blanket answer that you're looking for is, I go into every session and I'll have them on their own, spend 5 to 10 minutes foam rolling before I'm even there. And then we practice. So I don't really call it a warm up. I call it practice. And we're practicing things they need to improve. Okay. Practice for someone could be a pull-up. Practice for a man could be a reach back where they have no thoracic rotation, but we're working on thoracic rotation because it's a characteristic they need to improve. I was talking to a woman the other day that said, this stretch, I'm not feeling this stretch. And I said, because you don't need it, right? But she needed to hang from a pull-up bar because she needed more grip strength and more shoulder stability. So the thing that I do is it's assessing what they need and allowing them to practice that for 10 minutes. And that's their mobility work. That's their functional work. That's their warm up. That's elevating their heart rate, but it's also strengthening areas that are weak on them, whether it's a flexibility issue or a mobility issue. That's completely up to me to determine. And then at that point, it's putting together the training program that's going to fit what their needs are. If it's something for David, like I mentioned, his going to be more of a power building program where we have to do those real traditional lifts, get those basic lifts stronger, something like a deadlift. Deadlift takes care of 100 different things. The workout plan doesn't have to look like a Chinese menu sometimes. Then I might be working with Emily for a role, and the training needs to be a little bit more dynamic because she might need a little more jump training. She might need a little bit more isolation work to a certain body part that she wants to bring out. Or Annie Hathaway, we just got Annie ready for this WeWork show that she shot with Jared Leto, and she had this big scene that she had to get ready for. So for months we were working up to the scene. So that's what gets fun. There's certain principles that I'm always going to pay attention to. There's certain things that I'm always going to mix in, but the program's always going to change according to what their body needs. And listen, I host challenges now where I'll have 500 to 1,000 people come on a month, and I coach all of them every morning. I'm putting up a morning video. I'm answering every one of their questions, and it's a universal program. But part of my coaching is to where some of them need adjustments. Can't do this. The doctor said, no, this is too easy. What should I add in? And then as a coach, and it's the fact that I've been working with these people month in and month out, I can make those adjustments.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like, of course, as you're talking about, it's very specific and specifically geared to their result that they're going after. But being somebody, a fitness trainer and obviously a coach in general, there's specific things you tackle that you have knowledge, like if you need to lose fat, if you need to trim down, you need to up your endurance and all these things. And before I go into what I was going to ask you next, you mentioned foam rolling, and I've watched a video of yours and you say like, do this first. Why is foam rolling so essential? And is that something you have everybody do?
Yeah. I pretty much do if they have a foam roller. There are people out there that bash a foam roller and they're like, oh, it's not really, it's not really detaching the fascia from the muscle. I'm not saying it does, but I'm saying it does help get movement into the body, and it helps get fresh oxygen to the muscle, and it helps with circulation. So most of the time, if we get on, a certain area of our body, like our quads or our hips or our glutes or our lats, and it's sensitive and tight, just getting on there and breathing for a few minutes, it's like the poor man's massage. It's just yes. A way for us to be able to get some elasticity into that muscle. I don't like the word pliability, but it really is getting a little bit of movement into that muscle. And in a few days, 9 out of 10 people are like, oh my God, my body's feeling better. And it's not as sensitive anymore. So I think it is a very easy thing for you to add in. It's a very inexpensive, low-hanging fruit item where get into the gym, just lie on it, assess your body, see what might be tight. Certain days, my legs feel great. And other days I get on it, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's like the most painful thing.
Yeah, it could be. But if you stay consistent with it, you're going to feel better for it. And that's a reason why I make sure I incorporate it into everyone's routines.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about, because a lot of people at the gym, let's say, I actually work out in my gym here, but a lot of people when they go at the gym, especially females, I know, will go overboard on cardio because they're trying to lose fat. I'm curious your opinion on that when it comes to training. What is too much cardio, and how do you feel about how cardio actually contributes or does not contribute to fat loss and water retention and all these fun things.
I'm going to listen. I enjoy cardio because of how I feel, but I'm going to steal my buddy Ben Bruno. He's another coach. His line was resistance training is the entree. Cardio should be the side dish. And I have over the last 6 months, when I shot the cover of Muscle and Fitness, I lost 8 pounds of fat and I put on 3 pounds, I think close to 3 pounds of muscle. And that was according to my DEXA scan. So I had a really good, accurate way of analyzing that. My test before that, which was back in December, January, I was playing ice hockey 5-6 days a week. I play in a league, wintertime, training like crazy, lifting, eating beautifully, counting macros. And I gained a pound of fat and I lost a pound of muscle. So my body went in the reverse direction. Didn't drink alcohol, was eating beautifully, was getting what most would think would be a high level of calories in there. But my body with a level of activity couldn't support maintaining that level of muscle. And because I lost muscle, I was also putting on body fat. We need muscle to be able to burn more body fat, right? And that's probably the biggest misconception, is that people they're like, oh, I want to start just doing cardio first. And then I'm going to burn and then get the weights. I'm like, trust me. I'm like, resistance training, if you resistance train, you will burn more fat calories at rest. Now, there is a level of cardio that we need. And I do believe there is a level of cardio that we should be incorporating. And it is very individualistic. If you went in for a VO2 max test, which I've done and I just did, you will find out different ranges on where you're burning fats or you're burning carbs. And it might turn around and tell me that when my heart rate's at 124, 125 beats a minute, that I'm burning an optimal level of carbs. Fat. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to train at 150, and it doesn't mean I'm not going to train at 110. Just because I'm at that range, yeah, that's where I should spend a lot of my time if I want fat burning. But I want to stay in good shape. I want to keep the engine to that car moving. So I'm going to purposely try and train in different zones. But I think cardio is something that's very overdone. And if we're not resistance training and we're not trying to put on muscle, honestly, at any age, I mean, I've had big time models that I've worked with, Victoria's Secret people, and we are trying to make sure that they are not burning up muscle. And that becomes a little bit of a trickier game because their bookers and their agency is going to tell you, when's the body, are we in a good spot? What do we really need to do? But it is very individualistic, and it is something that I think is really misunderstood. And just the fact we're going to go out and do cardio and we're going to automatically burn fat doesn't always work that way. Sometimes people do cardio, they get in a great shape. Get your steps in. I think that's something that a lot of people don't initially focus on. What is it? There's a terminology called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And that's just, it's things that I wouldn't count as the workout, like my steps. Like I think someone should be getting roughly 10,000 steps in a day. And if they're not, that's something they should initially just start working towards. It's low intensity. It's going to help with your cardio. It's going to help with your fat burning, and it's going to get you moving, and your body's going to feel better from it. So start focusing on that. Start focusing at the very least on getting, 2 to 3 days of resistance training in. And then if you feel like getting in the other days, do things like, a bike, the stairs, if your body's set up to run. But again, sometimes what's always the best is not always what we're ready for. And if someone's talking about HIIT, high intensity interval training, it's the best for burning fat. Most people out there don't do HIIT. 95% of the people out there who are like, I take a HIIT class, I do HIIT. It's not HIIT. HIIT training is not going for 45 seconds and taking a 15-second rest. HIIT training is like doing something that's blistering. It's so difficult and so high output for a period of time. I don't care if it's a 400-meter run or if it's a 10-second airdyne bike as hard as you can. You're not going to go again in 15 seconds. You're going to need like minutes to be able to rest and recover from that high level of output. And I'm not going to have someone who's not used to moving at that high level threshold to go and perform that. So I think this stuff is very individualistic for the people out there getting started. Don't worry about what's best. Get in there for a minimal amount of resistance training, get your steps in. If you want to start getting some light cardio and start there, build some consistency. Don't worry about how much time you're spending in the gym. If you're out of there in 25 minutes, stick with 25 minutes for a period of time and see a result from that. And then you'll notice in time that you're building some confidence and you might even want to start doing more.
Yeah, I think it's so important. I love that you stated, I forgot who you mentioned it was from, but that resistance training should be the entree and cardio should be the side dish. I completely agree with that. I used to say this, but I don't like to say this anymore, but I mostly resistance train, or I use my own body weight for training. And I've been, you might know what this is because you're in New York. So I've been doing for 17 years now. And I'm transitioning a little bit right now, of course, have this podcast and all these things, but I've been doing fit modeling. So I fit for clothing brands. And because I fit for clothing brands, I need to remain the exact same size. And so you probably know what that is. So I mostly work for denim brands. So my lower body needs to remain the exact same, which is very difficult, as many women know. But I've noticed, I think a lot of what you're saying, it's also knowing your body and how you respond to certain things. So for example, I remember in my younger days, if I would do anything uphill, I would completely bulk up. So I'd have to do something else and make sure I didn't bulk up. It's just getting familiar with your body and what feels right and see what works over time. At least that's what I feel. But it's kind of trying new things, I think. And I'm sure you do that with your clients as well.
Yeah, you have to. And what gets annoying sometimes is certain coaches will always allude to, oh yeah, you're not getting bigger. Resistance training doesn't get you bigger. We don't know how you're going to respond to a specific training stimulus. Yeah. You just don't. Like, you could turn around and, start lifting weights, and with the way you're eating, you could put on muscle. Like it's not, don't ever say that, oh, well, because a lot of coaches would turn around and be like, oh, it's in your head. Like, it's not in your head. If you know how your clothes feel, you know how you look. If you feel like your legs are blowing up, then try something a little bit different. There's no reason to have to do something that you're feeling really insecure about. There's a lot of tools out there. So I think it's the job of the coach to be able to point you in the right direction and have you do something that you feel confident with. And then, I think in time, if you need some variability and incorporating other things in there. But yeah, I completely agree with you. Training's got to be fun also. You can come off as sciencey as possible and trying to build the best program on the planet. But if the client's coming in and they absolutely hate it, then you're doing them an injustice.
Yeah, exactly. Because you want them to stick with it. That's the key, right? This is 100%. A lifelong plan. It's not like a temporary plan. So I know you talk about a lot about you have very high metabolism. And so speaking to people out there that are, let's say, they've been working out for some time, but they definitely have that low energy, maybe not as much endurance when they do some sort of activity. How could one person improve their metabolism and actually train their endurance and energy so that it is like a fuel?
Yeah, I think there's two things that you want to start doing. I think one, you got to start moving on a smart level. I don't want you going in and taking a class that your body's not ready to do, but start getting your steps in, or start find a coach that's giving you a sensible resistance training program, whether it's body weight or dumbbells or bands. I don't care. Like, start moving. Stop being afraid of calories. I think most people out there are so afraid of calories. I got to be very clear with you, and I know you already know this. All calories are not created equal. When someone says there's 100 calories from one thing and 100 calories from another thing, and they're comparing them like A to B, I'm like A to A, I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, your body's going to have a completely different response to one calorie over the other, and your body might turn around and have to start rejecting that or detoxifying because it's chemicals, or maybe it's gluten, or maybe it's dairy, and your body shouldn't be having that. Again, individualistic. But I think not being afraid of calories, because what's typically happening is a lot of people are waking up in the morning and they're trying to have something light, and they're like, oh, I'm having some egg whites and I'm having a piece of fruit. And then, they're having a lunch and they're like, oh, it's a salad and vegetables, and I'm getting quinoa or sweet potatoes and I'm having some fish on it. So far, it sounds like you're making some good decisions. And then 3:00, I'm having a handful of almonds and maybe an apple. And right there, they're thinking in their head that they're consuming all this good quality. Mm-hmm. And then the evening comes around and they're going to a business dinner. And at that point, they're starving and they're grabbing for the bread basket and they're having a vodka and that's hitting them. And then they're making poor choices, and then they're overeating. The problem is that they haven't front loaded their calories enough. There's a certain amount of calories that if you're sitting down all day and I'm sitting down all day, you and I are going to burn. Okay. It's called REE, resting energy expenditure. It's like, what are you burning at rest? There is a number there. And if you combine that with your non-resting activity, you're walking, you're running, you're working out, all these other things that we do, working at the computer, that's going to equal your total daily energy expenditure. So there's a number of calories that you need today. It's like, all right, you're going to drive the car tomorrow. How much gasoline do you need in that car for it to be able to hit all the chores and all the destinations that you need to go to? It's the same thing with calories. And if you're constantly undercaloried, your body's going to start adapting to that amount of calories, and it's going to start slowing things down. And that's when our metabolisms, in my opinion, start kind of slowing down and they stop functioning the way that they should be functioning. And that's why all the people that I've worked with in the beginning, a lot of times we have to start getting them to consume more calories slowly over weeks. Maybe it's increasing 100 calories a week, 150 calories a week. That's not a lot. That could be 25, grams of carbohydrates, because it's 4 calories per gram. So 25 times 4 would be 100. That's not a lot, but slowly getting them to incorporate that. Oh, I've never had breakfast. I feel sick when I have breakfast. All right, let's have a shake and throw some berries in it. Can you have that? Great. Let's do that for a week. All right, after that, let's start incorporating some food instead. Maybe have the shake late morning. Let's see how that goes. And then out of nowhere, our bodies, then they start noticing that energy level starts, raising. Oh my God, I have more energy. Oh my God, I'm sleeping through the night. Oh my God, my pants are fitting me a little bit more loosely. I haven't lost weight. I just had a woman recently who reached out to me. She's like, doing your program for the last 5 months, I got my DEXA scan and I put on 7 pounds of muscle and lost 7 pounds of fat. Like that's a perfect ratio. A pound equals a pound. So her weight stayed the same, but she has so much more muscle on her body and she looks amazing. So when you feed your body what it requires, it's amazing what can happen to it. The problem is we get very discouraged because our bodies aren't ready to sometimes dive into the water. Like we need to start slowly, then we get discouraged and, oh, well, I don't want to gain any weight. You might gain a pound or two of water weight, but then your body's going to acclimate and adapt. So I just think it's the wrong approach. And if you're taking the wrong approach, and if every New Year's resolution, you're trying the same thing and it's just not working after a few weeks, then find a new approach.
Yeah, I think that's so important that you mentioned so many people will go into like eating less calories or eating less because they think that's the way to lose weight. But when we go into that kind of deficit, that our body actually will store more fat because it feels like it needs to survive. So it's like holding on to more water weight and more fat.
I rarely, long term, like if it's a short term goal for a client that has to get ready for a movie, we will get them in a deficit. You have to. They have to look a certain way for the movie. But when I work with people long term, I don't put them in a deficit. There's a woman I've been working with for 7 years now. She reached out to me through social media. I'm allowed to talk about this. Her name is Laura Summers. She weighed in 7 years ago at roughly 872 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
Right. And right now, I'm proud to say that she just weighed in recently at about 360.
Oh my goodness.
She's lost over 500 pounds, but we did that from increasing her NEAT, which I talked about, the non-exercise activity thermogenesis, getting her walking, feeding her the right calories. And then in time, I hired her a trainer, and I have a trainer working with her 5 days a week. And I delivered a treadmill to her, and she doesn't work. So, we've been taking care of all this stuff, but now it's at a point where she has so much excess of skin on her body and the cells in her body are spending energy keeping that alive, that she can't lose any more weight. So we've brought in specialists, and she's got to go in for surgery. She has to have that removed. She's getting rashes. All these things are going on. So, it's to take someone at that point. We didn't starve her. We actually had to increase a lot of the right calories, and we had to get her internal engine working more efficiently with obviously the guidance of doctors, et cetera. I mean, we had to, my number one focus, when getting her to start moving was that she would survive that she would survive, because someone carrying that much mass around was very, it's too much. So there's some interesting cases that you have to deal with, and then you're never prepared for. You have to kind of learn as you go. But food is not our enemy. I feel like when we starve ourselves of the nutrition, these aren't diets. This is nutrition. Food is medicine. When we starve ourselves of nutrition, we're starving ourselves of being able to maintain blood sugar levels and maintain energy levels. And when that's gone, when you can't maintain your blood sugar level, that's when you start craving crap. When someone's like, I crave sugar in the evening, I'm like, you're not eating enough. What can I have? Eat more food during the day. And you try and set up their meal plan to where they consume more nutrition during the day, not starving yourself during the day where you have to perform at a high level at work or with your family, et cetera. And then at night, you're like, all right, you're trying to relax and you're wanting to dive into the cupboard and eat everything in existence. That is because you are under calorie. So we need to focus more on getting better nutrition, more nutrition into our bodies.
Love it. And I want to go a little bit more into nutrition, but before I move on to that, in regards to fitness, is there an exercise that you just think that is one of the best that everybody should incorporate? I'm sure you probably have a consistent exercise that you do with most of your clients, but is there one that you are such a fan of that delivers a lot of punch?
Yeah, I think it'd be a movement that's universally it's universal to anyone. Now, I love movements like deadlifting and squatting, and I'm not saying back squatting. A squat could be a goblet squat. A squat could be a body weight squat, a split squat, a deadlift could be a trap bar deadlift. It could be a sumo deadlift. There's different ways to be able to do those movements, but not everyone should even be doing that. There's certain injuries that might occur in someone. So I have to jump to something that, what can you load up and really attack that's pretty safe? And I would say it's probably a carry, some form of a carry, like a farmer walk or a one-arm suitcase carry. That's very safe. It's very universal and you can really attack. But beside that being very universal and something that I can pretty much assign to almost anyone, my goal is to be able to get someone to do some form of a squat or some form of a deadlift efficiently. And, I know people who should never be bilateral squatting, but we might get them split squatting or reverse lunging or doing something, one of those unilateral movements I feel like are magic. Unilateral movements are the most overlooked movements. And if we never did anything bilateral and we focus on unilateral for the general pop, it's probably the best thing for them. For certain bodybuilders that need to really load up and create a certain amount of hypertrophy, bilateral movements are important. But for the general pop, unilateral movements, if you're not doing some form of a one-legged movement or a split movement or a one-arm pressing movement or one-arm pulling movement, you're really selling yourself short.
And why is that?
Well, I think there's this level of stability that has to take place. So when you're in a split squat position, you are requiring so much stability from a joint by joint approach from your feet all the way up, and it's really safe to where most people don't have the strength to be able to do specific forms of deadlifting and specific forms of squatting, and they haven't really earned the ability to be able to do that yet. I think getting someone to doing like a very standard body weight split squat is a very safe, healthy way to be able to train, and it's requiring a lot of coordination and balance as well. So those are movements that I think aren't added into the programs enough. Like I'm at my gym, the gym I've been training at until my gym here is built. It's amazing to me how 95% of the gym isn't doing some type of a split stand, like a split squat or a rear foot elevated split squat. The amount of carryover to the big lifts are extraordinary. If you get those lifts stronger, they're going to strengthen so many other things. I've gone months without back squatting, and I've just gotten my rear foot elevated split squat strong, or my split squat stronger, then gone back to back squatting. My back squat's actually been even stronger. So the power of stability, the power, of mobility, the combination of flexibility, be able to get into that position, and stability, being able to stabilize throughout that movement, is something that's so overlooked.
Yeah. And you're engaging so much at one time, which is, so great.
Tension techniques. I like to refer to it as tension techniques. When you have to do movements like that, you have to create tension throughout the body. The people that I know that are really good at training, I can walk into a gym and it's not about, oh, my form, pull your shoulders back. I can tell if someone's experienced through the stability that they have throughout the gym. Like I can walk into any group training class, walk around, and I can point at the people and be like, yes, no, yes, no. Like they're not focusing on what they need to focus on. It's crazy.
Now I'm like thinking, if you were to assess me, that's crazy.
Probably fun. You're probably fun.
So why do so many men not train their lower body? It seems like all these bodybuilders or men that are trying to be like strong on their upper body, they hate leg day and they somewhat ignore the importance of working their lower body, which I think
a couple of reasons. One, it's it's painful. I mean, for a lot of people, it becomes very, very difficult. My favorite ab exercise on the planet is any type of lower body training. The amount of stability that you have to create, the amount of tension you have to create. I was deadlifting today. I was, I think I pulled like 430 for about 10 reps today. And it was my second week deadlifting in probably a couple months. Took a little bit of time off just because our training changed a bit. And the amount of tension going on in my body and stability going on in my body, you're not really going to find from any other ab movement. I still do things like hanging leg raises or ab wheel, or I'll do a kneeling cable crunch just to create a little bit more stress through some resistance. But someone who's pulling a lot of weight off the ground or have to stabilize to a squat by holding, whether it's a double kettlebell squat. Like I've seen people who squat 500 pounds that can't hold 236 kilo kettlebells in their hands in a rack position and maintain that through a squat pattern. The amount of abs and core that's going on in those lifts is incredible. So I think with legs with people, it's really hard. Maybe people don't like the soreness that they receive from it. But anytime someone turns to me and they're like, oh, I don't do a lot of legs, I run. I'm like, oh my God. Like if you just increase your lower body training, it's the most important area of the body to train. Like first off, like it will set off a growth hormone in the body, a natural occurring growth hormone. It will help with testosterone levels. It will help burn body fat. It will help, improve abdominals. And it's interval training. Like when you're going and doing legs, think about, because it's such a large muscle group, think about what's happening to your heart rate. Like, does your heart rate really ever get up that high when you're doing bicep curls or when you're doing walking lunges? Like walking lunges, it's difficult. But yeah, I think you're 100% right. It's like people got to start training their lower body more, and they have to stop being afraid about muscle because we're all losing it as we get older. And when I have someone who's in their 80s or 90s, I want to make sure they have as much body armor on their body as possible, because people start taking falls and they lose coordination and they haven't maintained that stability, that balance throughout their body. So when I'm working with the aging population, I'm so concerned with mobility, but I'm also so concerned with making sure that they're strong and their bodies, if they have a fall, that their bodies can withstand that blow to the body.
It's so important and so overlooked. As we were talking about the whole mobility, I think it's in America, we are the top place for hip surgeries. And based on, number one, we're sitting in this chair, which most other countries, they're sitting on the floor or they're getting full mobility. And I think mobility and strength is so overlooked, the importance of why that needs to carry us through life, So it's great. I love it all. Talking about nutrition, I don't know if you have it doesn't sound like you have a specific set way, except for I know you speak highly about clean eating, which I think we need to be more knowledgeable when it comes to clean eating in general, because that is so essential. But when it comes to like keto diet, intermittent fasting, and all these things, what is your thoughts on that? And is that something you put somebody on depending on?
No, intermittent fasting is something that I think, again, has to be earned. Like I have a really good friend of mine. His name's Robert Yang. He's one of the most brilliant nutritionists that I know. And he intermittent fasts, but he also knows what he's doing the rest of the day. And he knows how he has to bump his calories with real food, and he has to get that nutrition in. The reason why, so I'm for intermittent fasting. There's a lot of studies, and there's a lot of benefits to it. But the majority of the population out there, they're just not doing it right. They're doing it to rebound from maybe a poor night of eating, or they're doing it because they're lazy. And then the rest of the day, they're not consuming enough nutrition and they're not having, enough calories or a balanced meal. If you're going to intermittent fast and the rest of your day, you're going to consume only 800 to 1,000 calories, I think there's a problem there. Like when I spoke to John Berardi and I interviewed him on the Reps podcast, he intermittent fasts, but he has some huge meals after that. Like he'll eat, heavy protein, heavy, starches, whether it's potato or rice, a large amount of vegetables. He's getting nutrition into his body. And he knows how not to neglect his body of those macro and micronutrients that it needs. Most people out there are just not they're not focusing on it the right way. And I think they're using it as a tool to almost, avoid food and to maybe feel better about the night prior. And I think that could send them down a downward spiral. Keto, on the other hand, it's like, all right, it's the same answer. It's like I interviewed Dr. Perlmutter, who's a big keto advocate, and the way that he does keto is the right way. And he might prescribe. He's a doctor. He can prescribe. He might prescribe that diet to someone who has Alzheimer's in their family, or maybe has cancer, and they're trying to get their body to burn ketones as fuel. And that I can understand. But most people doing keto, one, they're not even on keto. They're on a fat adapted diet. Like they're not peeing on ketone strips. They're not testing to see if they're in ketosis. And when they get on it, they're getting on it to rebound from a bad weekend of eating or a bad, spurt of eating. And they're using the scale to be able to dictate their success. I can have anyone come in and lose 10 pounds this week. It doesn't mean they're going to keep it off. Right. It's like, we want to burn body fat. Like I'm not concerned with the scale. I'm concerned with nutrition. I'm concerned with values. I'm concerned with sleep, healthy habits, moderation. Like, do I like to go have ice cream or pizza or hamburgers? Like, hell yeah. I was at the Met game with my kids the other day. We went to Shake Shack. Yeah, but it was awesome. But listen, I just shot the cover of Muscle and Fitness. I can't overstay my welcome with that stuff, but I also know that every once in a while I like to have it. But I also know if I have too much of it, I don't feel good. And for me, that's the main focus. If I can focus on having a high level of energy, if I can wake up every day with low levels of inflammation and feel like I can attack my workout, attack my day, God, I'm like 99% there. I'm like, this fantastic. Everything else is going to fall into place. My body's going to look good. My sleep's going to be probably really good. And my efficiency day in, day out, my mood, and how I have to sit here and, attack work, it's going to be at a very high level. So I just think we focus on the wrong things. And I think we pay attention to a lot of the wrong avenues, like with a lot of these 2-week, fixes and cleanse and juice cleanses. Yeah. Like we need to do things that are more of a long-term approach and stop looking for the magic pill. Stop looking like when someone turns to me, I got to lose 5 pounds. Like, no, you don't. Anyone who tells me they have to lose 5 pounds, like it's ridiculous. Like if I told you could be 5 pounds heavier and have the exact physique that you want, the exact body you want, like pick it out of a magazine, that's your body, be 5 pounds heavier. And they're like, they don't know how to answer me. Yeah. Because they're so used to being living in a society where, we have to be lighter, we have to lose weight. It's got nothing to do with that. How do you look naked? How is your energy level? How do you feel every day when you wake up? Right. And that's the answer to the question. If we can get you to a good spot, who cares if you're 120 pounds or 115 pounds or 110 pounds? It shouldn't matter.
Yep. Agree. Well, okay. So I know you also talk about the importance of recovery. And I think that's also one of those things that's ignored. So what are your recovery hacks that you would recommend people should implement into their lives when they are training?
You're going to get really annoyed by it. You're going to get really annoyed at me right now. Sleep. Somebody asked me this the other day. They're like, what's your favorite recovery modality? It's called sleep.
That's funny.
And we should not only focus on, getting roughly 7 to 9 hours of it. It drives me nuts sometimes how you'll get a lot of these biohackers out there, or a lot of these big names in Hollywood. Like I know the Huffington Post years ago talked about Mark Wahlberg waking up at 2:30 in the morning to go work out, and then he's playing golf. And I'm like, I personally think it's absolutely ridiculous. Like no one has ever won the battle there was an athlete years ago. He's a professional football player, Lyle Alzado. He's one of the most fierce NFL players that ever walk on the planet. And I remember like watching this guy literally kill people on the field. And the next thing you know, he's got a bandana on and he's like 100 pounds lighter and he's dying of cancer. Like it just comes to a certain point where like our bodies are going to tap out. Like you can try to think that you can have your cake and eat it too. And you can try to continue to do these things. But at a certain point, like a lot of us get unlucky. Like if you have the opportunity to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, do it. You know, don't turn around and decide not to, because Dave Asprey's saying he sleeps 6 hours and 10 minutes a night. Like value the importance of sleep. Value the importance of getting that sleep in. Your body might need it. You know, maybe there is 1% of the people out there on the planet who do not need that number of sleep. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. It's not me to determine that. My body does well when I go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time every day. And I'm falling into that 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And, you know, there's things to look at. Are you falling in that number? And if you know you're falling in that number, how efficient is your sleep? And I do use something called Oura Ring. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite way to be able to not determine, okay, this is the be all end all day in and day out, but be able to determine whether I need to make some behavioral change. You know, to give you an example. I ate really late last night and I looked at my Oura and I thought I slept really good, but it showed that I only had, you know, about 10 minutes of REM sleep and about 20 minutes of deep sleep. It was too little. And that my sleep efficiency went down. So I was in bed for 9 hours, but it's saying I really only slept 5.5 hours. Wow. Now I could start connecting dots. Well, I ate good last night. What would have been? Oh my God. I was on YouTube till 10 p.m. I never do that. Maybe it was that. Get back on track. 2 weeks later, I'm YouTube till 11 o'clock. The same thing happens now. Maybe it's the blue light. Maybe it's the fact that I was on my handheld that late. Maybe it was the fact that I had more than one alcoholic beverage last night. Maybe it was the fact I ate Shake Shack and then went home and went to bed. So then you could start connecting the dots a little bit better. It's just to give us a gauge. It's just to give us a little bit more of an education of saying, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. But if I wake up one morning and I feel like $1 million and it's saying me to take you know, a day of rest, I might not. It might be a day for me to train. I might feel great. I might go for it. You know, I might not. So, you know, I think there's, these are not perfect, but this is by far the best thing on the market right now. I think it's fantastic.
Absolutely. And how about
time out. Yeah. Sorry. I got off topic. So sleep, but my favorite recovery hacks, I'll give them to you quick. Yeah. Infrared sauna, cold plunges, cold showers. I love Normatec boots. I love the Hypervolt gun. I love meditation if you have, or just having the ability to take a 10 to 20 minute nap. That's it in the afternoon. I think fantastic. A massage, all that stuff, all great recovery hacks. Cold showers are honestly, everyone can do them. They're fantastic. Everyone should be taking an ice cold shower every day. Go through your whole routine in the shower. It might feel a little painful. You are going to feel like $1 million. I'll move on from recovery right now. Sorry.
I love that. No, thank you so much. And I agree with all that you mentioned. I think cold showers are something that, like you said, everybody should do. People are so afraid to start doing it, but it really does do wonders, not only like for your body, but mentally. It just, you feel so invigorated after. And how long 100%. do you do your cold showers for when you do?
I mean, I think if I take a shower, it's normally probably for about 7 to 10 minutes. Like I wash my hair, my face, so I'm probably in there, you know, anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. But I'll go through my whole routine and I'm purposely thinking about, like, I'm kind of a little OCD. I'm like American Psycho in there. Like I'm going through, like, I'm very, like, I do my whole routine, but I'm not rushing it. I'm just trying to get in there and make sure that I'm clean and that I've been exposed to the cold water. If I'm getting into my cold plunge, which I did, I'm not doing as frequently right now because we have so much construction in the back, but I did it on Monday. I was in for about 6 minutes. I emptied 3 big sleeves of ice, like, you know, the 6 sleeves. So I emptied about 18 bags of ice into it, and I sat into it for about 6 minutes. So
that's amazing. I love that. And how do you feel about supplements? What's your go-to that you recommend? Okay, so going back to kind of the title of this episode is how to feel and look like a superhero. So we're talking about obviously your training, we're talking about recovery, sleep, we're talking about nutrition, all that stuff. But when it comes to supplements that everybody, well, I know it ranges. Obviously we have the men, we have the women, but if you were to recommend supplements, what are your go-tos? I know you work with some brands as well.
Yeah. So I do work with Thorne. It's a research company. They're NSF certified, which means it's completely, it's got no banned ingredients in it. It's all approved in the US. That's what NSF is. Supplements, it's tricky because from a performance standpoint, I do like some of the performance supplements. Like creatine's one of the most highly researched supplements. Branched chain amino acids, it's something I use. I don't always use, and that's because if I'm eating enough protein throughout the day, I don't feel like I need the BCAAs throughout the workout. But if I'm getting up, if I'm doing a fasted workout, if there's a large window before my pre-workout meal, and when I'm training, I will supplement some BCAAs in there. The supplements that I like to add in, though, that I think are pretty universal, would be a good multivitamin. Thorne makes a great one. Vitamin D and fish oil. Vitamin D, most of us are deficient in it. And I feel like those are really safe and those are pretty universal. Now, the right answer that most, functional medicine doctors would say would be, what are you deficient in? If you're deficient in it, you don't necessarily need it. There might be an argument there as well, especially with vitamin D. I think they're finding that the levels of vitamin D that you consume are a little bit higher than what's actually recommended. But I feel like even if your nutrition is poor, supplementing those things in are going to be, if your nutrition's poor, then you definitely need a lot more of that stuff, right? I mean, it's like you're not getting a lot of it through proper nutrition. Then you have those purists who are saying, well, if you're eating properly, you should be getting all that stuff. And yeah, there might be some truth to that, but a lot of us aren't. And a lot of us become creatures of habit, and you're not getting that variability. You're not getting that food rotation, and where you're rotating in a certain amount of fruits every week or a certain amount of vegetables every week, to where you're getting different varieties of micronutrients. So I think those for me are really three really safe supplements that I would kind of recommend across the board. And getting into the performance end of it, if someone's coming to me and they're like, oh, well, I want some performance supplements, you could spend your money on it if you want to, but like if your sleep's not where it needs to be, if you're not getting enough calories in, like you're not really going to notice anything. Like those performance supplements, I feel like you really notice when you have everything else in place. And then that's your last like 3 to 5% that you might feel like, oh, wow, strength has gone up. Oh, wow, maybe put on a little bit of, muscle from this, or I'm recovering a little bit quicker, or maybe I'm feeling like my soreness is cut down. I really feel like things have to be dialed in for you to be able to start incorporating those supplements and to really see a big difference. So I would tell you, if everything else isn't in check, don't waste your money on it. But if you are, interested in getting some of that stuff on my site, we offer 15% off. So go check it out. But otherwise, don't focus, put your money. I think the best answer is, a woman reached out to me the other day. The budget is an issue. Budget is a factor. Where should I put my money into from a supplement? And I said, don't, just put it into nutrition. I'd rather you take that money that just like if you're worried about, like if you're worried about nutrition, if you're worried about supplementation, you're worried about budget, I'd rather you take that $50 a month that you're going to spend on supplements, or $100 a month, whatever the number is. I'd rather you put that into a higher quality of food, or maybe, buying some more fresh fruits and vegetables and making sure that comes in. You're going to have a lot more benefit from that, or really focusing on your sleep, doing things that are going to really pay dividends.
Amazing. And you offer a lot of programs on your website. As I was talking about, I checked out. So what are some of those? And I know you have this app too, the Playbook app, which I'm really excited. I think that's something new you just launched. Am I right? Or
that's about 7 years old. So the Playbook, no, it's fine. No, it's totally fine. It can get confusing. So the Playbook app is an app where it's on your phone, very easy to navigate, and I update the programs every quarter. So you're left alone, not a lot of customer service. You're getting videos of every exercise, descriptions, everything, a nutrition guide. It's awesome. Then I sell programs globally, which are for people who just completely want to be left alone. They want a one-off. They don't want a subscription. Then I have my challenges, which I'm most passionate about. And it's my coaching platform, where every month the first Monday of the month, I launch a new program, and I have a challenger community that joins. And most people join the Facebook group, and they can ask questions on a daily video. Now they get my nutrition guide, they get my program, they get videos, they get ab workouts, they get all bonus mobility workouts, so much stuff, but they get access to this community. And every day they can ask me as many questions as they want. So I'll wake up some days and I'll have 100 questions in there, and I write the questions down on a pad. It takes me like probably 30 minutes to an hour to go through that. And then I'll get up for 30 minutes on camera and I'll answer all their questions. Wow. And they could determine whether they want the questions answered in the comment section or if they want to watch the video. So I'm coaching these people
my goodness,
every day, every month. And that's probably what I love doing the most, because I'm able to coach and we're able to make adjustments. But the challenger community has been unbelievable. The progress has been unbelievable. And, we've been changing lives and doing some great stuff. So I've been really excited about it.
Free challenge?
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that you're offering a lot.
No. It is a paid program. It is something that they need to commit to. But again, you're part of the challenger community. It's very inexpensive, and it's given them the ability to come in and get coached by me for a month. So for people trying to get started out, I tell them at the very least, like, where do you get started? You should get started with a coach, with someone guiding you through a process. If you're going to just go get a program and you've never done it, make sure you understand the videos and you understand the approach. But it's always great in the beginning to be able to ask questions and get some feedback.
Absolutely. That sounds phenomenal. And again, you offer so many other ranges of programs. You have so many videos online. There's so much more to learn. This is like a little teaser of what you share, obviously. So is there anything else you could leave us with, like, for women and men out there that are really just wanting to feel and look their best? I mean, we touched on a lot, but if you were to add anything more to that, is there anything else?
Yeah. My best advice to everyone is that I think the one thing I've heard over the last close to 25 years is people will come to me and say, God, Don, I just want to want it. You know what I mean by that? Like, I just can't get motivated. I just want to want it. And what's amazing about fitness is there is no magic set number. There is no magic rep number. There is no magic amount of days or amount of time that you need to be training. You just have to do. And if you're turning around and last year someone sat on the couch for 365 days, by getting them to move for 5 to 10 minutes a day, that is progress, because they're going to see themselves feel better. They might even make one good, solid nutritional choice. And I've turned around to people who eat fast food 3 times a day, and they're like, where do you want me to start? I'm like, let's start with a clean breakfast. They're like, what else? I'm like, that's it. Like, show me right now for the next 7 days, you can do a clean breakfast. And just having them almost marinate into this process. And the worst mistake that everyone makes out there is they try and dive into this be all end all approach. I'm going to be perfect. I'm going to give up alcohol. Like, listen, everyone doesn't have to.
It's like New Year's resolutions.
It's
like, they're like, I'm going to do this now.
It's crap. But like, what I even tell people, and this is when I talk to them, I'm like, listen, you've tried New Year's resolutions for the last 10 years. It hasn't worked. And it's the same thing. You go 3 weeks of being perfect. You lose 8 pounds. You turn around, you go to a birthday party, you blow it out, you have a good time, you get on the scale, you gain 7 of it back, and you're depressed and you give up. Why don't you just start off, pay attention to those principles and values for the next 6.5 days? You have a dinner that you really want to do on Saturday night. If you feel like having a drink, have a drink. Have a bowl of pasta if you want. Don't go overboard. And then Sunday, back on it. Well, can I do that? Well, yes. It's not about being perfect. It's just about improving. And if you could just improve even 20% better, 10% better, whatever it is, you are going to see a little bit of growth and a little bit of progress. With that consistency, you're then going to turn around and you're going to want more. And there's one quick thing that I'm going to end on right now. It's a quick story, but it's a great story. My buddy John came to me when I had Drive open. He was in his 40s. And he came in, he goes, listen, I got a weird request. And I go, what? He goes, I just want to see my top 2 abs. And I looked at him and I started laughing.
So specific.
He's so specific. I'm like, the top 2 abs, that makes no sense. All right, come on in my office. Took his shirt off, a decent amount of muscle, a little puffy. I said, all right, let's go through your nutrition. He went through his nutrition and he was having a couple drinks, whatever it was, 5 days a week. And he was having a couple bites of dessert 5 days a week and this and that. I said, John, listen, let's just cut everything in half. Everything just gets cut in half. He's like, seriously? I said, yeah. And you know what? Focus on your need, focus on getting your steps in, and keep training the way you're training. Because I see how you're training and it's fine. It's enough. But let's just cut everything in half. We didn't pull it away. We cut it in half. He came back in, I think it was 2 to 3 weeks later, and he took his shirt off and he literally had a line. You could see the separation and definition in his top 2 abs. And he's like, I don't believe it. Like, how is this possible? I didn't give everything up. Like, I'm still kind of having fun. I actually feel better. Actually, and then he turned to me and he said the magic words. He goes, what's next? Like, what's next? Like, what are we doing now? And I looked at him and I smiled. I said, well, do you want to try and take it up a notch? He said, yeah. I said, well, then let's do this. And I gave him the next recommendation. It's not about, the biggest mistake is throwing the kitchen sink at someone. We don't need to do that. We just need to improve. We just need to do something. We just need to get our steps in. We just need to maybe work out 10 minutes a day. Stop worrying about what's the best. Stop jumping on the program that you're not going to be able to maintain. Just improve and do a little bit better. Baby steps, build some confidence. And then you might even be the person to turn around and say, what's next? I mean, who knows?
I love that, because it's so true that when we start doing it and we start feeling better, we want more of that. It's like a natural boost. And then we'll just honestly just want more of it. So I love that.
Love.
If you were to leave one piece of advice that you feel anybody could hear right now, it doesn't have to do with fitness. It doesn't have to do with anything, just life advice. You've gone through a lot. You're an entrepreneur. You've endured a lot, I'm sure, in everything. So what would you leave with us?
No, at the end of the day, I mean, it's funny because if it was fitness, I would say trust the process, it's not a fitness question. But I think at the end of the day, it just comes back to patience. We got to have a level of patience. If you're opening a business, if you're looking for a new job, I know people who just, lost a woman contacted me the other day. She just lost a potential home she was supposed to sign a lease on. We just got to be patient, and we just got to understand that, for every time in life that we feel like we're being, and it's a corny line, but every time in life we feel like we're being rejected, we're really being redirected to something else. And it's a line I've lived by. Anytime I've had something thrown at me, or every time I've lost something, or something fell through, or someone quit, or maybe this company got sold and I lost the position, I've always been able to pivot to something else. And I think that's just from surrounding myself with positive people and being a positive person, and understanding that when you get kicked, you got to stand up and you got to keep going. So I just think we got to we got to be patient, and patience and positivity is absolutely huge.
Love it. Perfect advice. And I can't agree more. So thank you so much, Don. This has been so great. I love it. I love all you share. I love your workouts.
Thank you.
I mean, you're talking to real people and superheroes at the same time. So it's pretty awesome. But yeah,
thank you.
Of course, one thing I think is so important is that we don't have to go so full at it, just make that progress. And then, you build on that and just continuing to obviously get the good stuff in and the sleep and all that stuff. It's so great. So thank you so much, Don. Appreciate you.
My pleasure. Best of luck to you. Okay.
Thank you.